If you're in search of improved performance for your 2010 or newer 4.0 liter 4Runner, this HPS Shortram cold air intake will be a great place to start. Now this will be perfect for the 4Runner owner looking to take their setup to the next level with improved airflow and better filtration to optimize their performance while getting rid of the pesky maintenance with their factory filter. Now not to mention, this will have an incredibly sporty look with the exposed filter and the heat shield application. Now I would like to mention that this won't be as protective as the factory airbox, so this is best suited for somebody who's staying away from waterfording or muddy scenarios where their filter could potentially see water, so just keep that in mind while you're shopping around. This will feature a straight-through style intake tube measuring in at 3.5 inches to allow streamlined airflow into the intake system for improved performance that you'll be able to feel in your throttle response. Now the filter will also be washable and reusable again, so you can forget the days of buying a new filter every time your factory one was gunked up. Now the filter will also help with airflow and optimize your filtration, again with an oiled design to trap all of the micro contaminants from getting into the intake. Now last but not least, the heat shield application will switch it up from the standard air box to increase airflow coming into the filter while maintaining good protection to eliminate any heat soak. Now getting into the nitty-gritty of the construction, starting off with the filter here, this will have a 2-layer woven cotton construction that will be encased in a steel mesh to offer structure to the pleats and also feature a synthetic oil to trap anything trying to get in. Now the heat shield will be made of a thinner steel construction, and the tubing here will be mandrel bent aluminum for smooth and direct airflow. Now both of those will have a Wrinkle Black powder coat on top to protect the materials underneath from any rusting or corrosion, but also just add that heavy-duty appearance underneath the hood. This kit will also come with some heavy-duty silicone couplers as well as stainless T-bar clamps to ensure a seamless and durable fit. This will be pretty affordable compared to other solutions at roughly $325. Now what I like about this design is that it's no frill in design, keeping it simple yet super functional for all the benefits that you're getting here. Now, it's also very open to get the most air possible, and even though you are lacking a little bit of protection to the filter, you're not worried about it. It makes up for it in the performance and the appearance, making this a great pick for your 4Runner. Install will be a light 2 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, taking you about an hour to get the job done with some pretty basic hand tools. Now at this point we can head over to the shop and check out the detailed breakdown of the install process and what it looks like step by step. That's going to wrap it up for me. Let's go ahead and get into it.
Tools required for this install include a ratchet, a 10mm wrench, a Phillips head screwdriver, a 3mm Allen wrench, an extension, 7, 8, 10, 12, 13, and 14mm sockets. What's up guys? Today we're installing an intake on our 4Runner, so let's get started. So the first thing we need to do is pop off our engine cover to get access to our clamps as well as some of our hoses. So to pop off our engine cover, we can just lift on the front, to pop it out of our grommets, and then pull forward. Next we can disconnect our crankcase vent hose, so we can pinch on the clamp, and then pop that off. And then we'll also pop off this vent hose on our fuel pressure regulator. Next we can come back and pop off the clip that's holding in our wire harness. So we'll grab a clip remover tool and wiggle that out. Next we can take a 10mm socket to loosen up our clamp as well as remove this bolt. Next we can come back to the clamp on our throttle body and do the same thing. Next we can wiggle our intake tube out of place. So next we can come back to our intake box. We're going to remove our connector, pop the clip holding our wiring harness to the top, and also the clip on the side. So we can push in on the tab and pull up to remove our connector. And then we'll grab a clip remover tool to pop that clip out of the way. And then we'll do that same thing for our other clip. And then we can release these 4 clips surrounding our intake box. And then we can remove our cover and pop our filter out of the way. Next, we can remove these 2 12mm bolts at the bottom of our intake box. So we'll grab a 12mm socket. Now on the outside of our box, right here, we have 1 more bolt, and we also have another clip right here. So we'll grab our clip remover tool to pop that clip out of the way. And we can take our 12mm socket to get our bolt out. Now this is going to be hard to see, but I'll show you where it goes as soon as we get our box out of the way. And with that removed, we can pop our box out of the way. And this hole right here is where that 3rd bolt came out of. Next, we can remove the bolt on the rear of our power steering reservoir bracket. So we'll grab that 12mm socket again to take that out. So now with everything else removed, we have some more access to remove our breather hose from our valve cover. So we can pinch on that clamp to remove it and then just wiggle it off. So now we're ready to assemble our new intake tube. The first thing we're going to need to do is transfer our mass airflow sensor. We have 2 Phillips head screws that we can remove to take that out. We'll pop it into our new intake tube and use the included 2 bolts to tighten it down. So we'll grab a Phillips head screwdriver to remove our 2 screws. And then we can pull our sensor out of place and slide it into our new intake pipe. And then we can grab a 3mm Allen wrench to tighten our bolts down. Next, we can install our rubber isolator stud. This is going to thread in to this piece right below our mass airflow sensor. And then we can install our 2 tubes. So we'll slide our thinner one onto the thinner post. And then our second tube onto the larger one. And then we can take our clamp, we'll slide that onto the edge, and then take a 7mm socket to tighten it down. Next, we can install our bracket onto our heat shield for that rubber isolator that we installed onto our intake pipe. So we're going to be taking the smallest bolt that's included in our kit with a flat washer through the front side, and then we'll get our flanged nut on the back side. Straighten that out. And then we can take a 10mm socket on our bolt side and a 10mm wrench on our nut side. And then we're gonna wanna hold the bracket straight so it doesn't spin when we tighten it down. Next, we can install our heat shield into our engine bay. If you have the air injection pump, you are gonna have to remove this 1 bolt that's right next to the power steering bracket. So we'll take a 12mm socket to loosen that up. And remove that bolt. So now we can lay our heat shield into place. For the 2 bolts in the rear, we're gonna be using our 13mm bolts with flat washers. So we can thread those in. Now the bolt we're going to be replacing, the one we removed, is going to be the 14mm bolt with washer. Now to get down in there a little easier, to avoid dropping your bolt into the abyss, you can bend the heat shield to get your bolt in. And then you can take a 14mm socket and extension. Now once we have that bolt started, we can throw our socket onto a ratchet to tighten that down. And then we can tighten down our back 2 bolts. Now the middle one's going to be a little hard to see, but it's right below the bracket here. Next we can take the smaller of our 2 couplers and the smaller of our 4 clamps. The smaller side is going to go onto the throttle body. And then we'll take an 8mm socket to tighten down our clamp. Now our remaining 3 clamps are the same size, so we'll slide one over our throttle body. And then we can grab our intake tube. Our isolator stud is going to go through the bracket in our heat shield. And we can slide that into our coupler. And then we'll slide our second clamp into place and take our 8mm socket to tighten it down. Next we can come down to our isolator and install a washer and a nut. And then we'll take our 10mm socket to tighten that down. Next we can start attaching our lines. So first we'll attach our smaller hose to the fuel pressure regulator. Just sliding that on like that. And now we can connect our larger hose. So we'll take the second clamp we have and slide that on. And then slide our hose onto our valve cover. And then we'll bring our clamp down and take our 7mm socket to tighten it down. Next we can take our second coupler with our 2 remaining clamps and slide that onto our intake pipe. And then we can take the adapter for our filter and slide that into our coupler. And now we'll just slide our 2 clamps into place. And now once we have everything in place, we can take our 10mm socket to tighten down our clamps. Next we can install our filter with the clamp for the filter. So slide that on, and then we can take our 8mm socket for this clamp to tighten that down. Now lastly, we can reconnect the connector for our air sensor. So we'll slide that under our intake pipe and then press that in until it clicks. Now once we have everything installed, we can reinstall our engine cover. Now these 2 are going to clip onto the back here, and then we'll be popping these 2 grommets onto our studs. So that'll wrap up this review and install of the HPS Shortram cold air intake in Wrinkle Black for your 2010 and newer 4-liter 4Runner. Thank you for watching, and for all things 4Runner, keep it right here at ExtremeTerrain.com.